As we've said, we will be here, 15 more times before this situation gets resolved in regards to George Pickens. We're going to have George Pickens after George Pickens after George Pickens live stream. It's the way this stuff goes when there's a franchise tag or holdout type of situation. This is going to be probably one of those things that gets really, really messy before it ends up getting concluded and worked out. George Pickens, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, we talked about this already. This isn't necessarily new news, but it's kind of going widespread right now, so I thought it deserved its own live stream. We talked about it on about 2 shows ago when this was getting kicked around. And we've also projected that this would happen, that George Pickens trade talk rumors would start kicking into gear. As everybody weeks and months ago assumed that there's no way George Pickens goes anywhere, they're going to tag him. They're going to tag him. We know they're going to tag him. That's obvious. That's a no-brainer. The Cowboys will tag George Pickens. They won't work out a deal in time to not tag him. Like, obviously, that's not in the cards, right? He's going to get tagged to hold him in place so they can then work out a long-term deal during free agency. It's not going to be something that either happens or happens very quickly. It would be something that if they did get a long-term deal worked out, which is a lot more unlikely than people want to pretend, because he's going to command number 4, number 5 wide receiver money. Top 5 wide receiver money is what Pickens will command, and damn, he deserves it because he finished as the number 5 wide receiver last year. That is going to present a problem. And the Cowboys will have to entertain a tag and trade, as we've alluded to all offseason. This is not new news if you watch the Fantasy Football Show. If you watch this channel, we've been kicking around every single one of these options. But now that Ian Rappaport is speaking about it, now it's being widespread talked about, we got to come in here and discuss this specific angle, because that's what we do. When there's news, we come out and break it down. We come out and digest it. We come down and pick it apart or lift it up. And this is a real possibility. We'll break down what is likely in store if a trade does go down, how it would look. Is it good for Lamb? I'll spoil that for you. It's better for Lamb to be solo. Let's not pretend that Pickens is good for Lamb. He's not necessarily horrible, but he's not necessarily good for Lamb. This would be good if Pickens could go to Buffalo, New England, a place where he could be the sole provider of that wide receiver room, and then Lamb could continue on doing Lamb things. The Fantasy Football Show Breaking News Edition, George Pickens Edition, begins right now. File on in.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
What is up, my people over on Rumble? Appreciate you. Guys, subscribe to the Rumble channel if you haven't already. Race to 10K. As soon as we get to 10K, we're opening up a new show on Rumble. It's additional to the YouTube show. Guys, this is a messy situation. I think anybody that thinks that this is going to be clean, how this all goes down, they're fooling themselves. George Pickens is going to command top 5 wide receiver money. We don't even know if Pickens might come in and say, I want number 1 overall money. I want to be the highest paid wide receiver in the entire National Football League. I'm not saying he deserves that. I'm not saying he'll get that, but that's what he could want. Husseini dropping 5 gifted memberships like an absolute monster.
I smell meatloaf.
This is a complete speculative report. Bro, I've literally said this all offseason. I've literally told you there are so many avenues. Scribbles, pay attention. Buckle up and pay attention. Learn something. This is going to be so messy, this situation. It's going to get so ugly because the Cowboys don't want to pay George Pickens top 5 wide receiver money. You may think they do. You may think they should, but Jerry's a completely different type of bird. He's a rare bird. And this is a guy that mucked up the Parsons situation. You don't think he could screw this up? There's so many different avenues and facets to this that make this a complex, drawn out, messy situation that's going to certainly be a conversation at some point where the Cowboys sit down and say, we can't sign him to the money he wants. We got him for a third-round pick, and as Schefter talks about here, flipping him for a second-round pick would be a pretty solid move in terms of the Cowboys, flipping something that they got and getting good value and going after a player and figuring out how to turn this thing into a profit without breaking the bank on a wide receiver that may or may not. We know he's as elite as he played last year. We predicted it. We told everyone that this guy's top 5 to 10 material. We've said it for years on this channel that he's got a top 10 skill set in this National Football League. He just needed the opportunity. But the Cowboys, they know they have a shot at being a competitive team. Do they really believe that they can win a Super Bowl in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years? I believe Jerry does. So I think Jerry's fully interested in bringing Pickens back to try and win a Super Bowl. But there is sort of a realistic sense that this team understands that they don't necessarily win a Super Bowl by tying up all their money into 2 wide receivers. That doesn't necessarily get them over the hump. So they will be exploring what does a second rounder and the money do versus George Pickens. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I would figure it out. The money, it's fictitious anyway. It's all a fugazi, fairy dust. The money doesn't even matter. Like, to a degree, there's certain limitations you have, but you can pretty much figure anything out. You can restructure. CeeDee Lamb's already said he would restructure his deal in order to fit Pickens into the equation. You can figure it out. But Jerry does not want to pay top 5 wide receiver money. I can tell you that right now. He might eventually do it. Remember Dak? I don't want to pay Dak. I don't know if Dak's the guy. He eventually paid Dak. So it's certainly something Jerry could do in the 11th hour after he's exhausted the situation, dragged the situation out, been absolutely, ridiculous with this situation. But George Pickens, this is not over. This is just the beginning. This is just the scratching of the surface of the George Pickens that could go this way, it could go that way, it could go that way, it could go this way. That's why, no offense, Scribbles, but for you to say it's a speculative report, everything's speculative at this point, my boy. Everything. There's no guaranteed anything. Everything is what avenue would this create? If they went down this avenue, how would that look? Everything's speculative. This is not speculative. This is one of the options. There are several options on the table for the Dallas Cowboys. They can tag him, make him play on the tag, which is a $29 million amount that he's not going to want to play on. And he's going to literally hold out until the end of time, until the last possible second, then maybe come back and play on $29 million. But you literally have the tag and he plays on it. The tag and they work out a long-term deal early, a lot earlier than we think, or they tag him and they work out a long-term deal, but they take until the end of time to do it. He holds out, he gets injured because he held out. Holdouts lead to injuries. Or they tag him and, like I said, sign him early. Or they tag him and trade him. He signs a new deal with his new team. Those are not speculations, Scribbles. Those are the actual options on the table. And they're all viable. Why are they viable? Because there's human beings involved. One of them is Jerry Jones in Jerry's world. One of them is a diva mentality, thought to be a diva mentality, George Pickens, who's actually been really well behaved over the course of the 2025 season and throughout the entire Super Bowl week. When interviewed, the guy seems so laid back. He doesn't seem like he's trying to cause any trouble whatsoever. I really like the way George Pickens is bringing the vibe to the situation. He doesn't seem like he's trying to diva out right now. I think he's really happy. I think for good reason he was upset about his situation. For good reason he, in Pittsburgh, was not happy. For good reason he got passed over and his money was given to DK Metcalf. And they said, hey, number one, George Pickens, we're going to go make you the two. We're going to go get DK Metcalf. No wonder he's upset. I'd be upset too. But George Pickens was pretty calm when they traded him over to Dallas. He could have demanded a new deal, but he didn't. He said, I'll just prove myself. I don't even need a new contract. Jerry said, okay, that'll work for me. Even though Jerry could be paying through the roof if Pickens delivered, and boy, did Pickens deliver. Top 5 wide receiver numbers is what George Pickens cranked out. George Pickens earned himself top 5 salary, something Jerry did not predict or expect fully, and now Jerry's put in a box. Does he sign George Pickens to top 5 wide receiver money, or does he trade him? Pickens isn't taking 10, 9 wide receiver value. He's not taking the 7th or 8th wide receiver value. He's taking top 5, or he's not signing a deal. And if Jerry decides he doesn't want to go down that route, then he will be in a situation where this is not a speculative report. This is what's probably in store. One of these options is going to play out, and a tag and trade is certainly within the realm of possibility, especially when you get a second rounder, maybe something additional, another future later pick or whatever the case may be. If you're in a box and you're Jerry, and Jerry's screwed, like, did anybody think Parsons was going to get traded at the onset of it all? No. Why would you trade Parsons? They'll work a deal out. They'll work a deal out. They didn't. This is Jerry. This is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones can screw up anything. Does anyone know if Smitty talked about Cam Ward? We're not talking about Cam Ward right now, Morgan. We're talking about the George Pickens news on screen. Bring it up at 8 p.m. Call into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how this is going to go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd be a moron if I came in here trying to predict this situation with ultimate confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody knows how this is going to end up going. Even if we knew the ultimate outcome, we could not even predict how many bumps in the road and waves we would see or encounter. This is not something that's predictable. This is not something that's measured. This is not something that Jerry's even giving us a blueprint for based on previous actions, because Jerry is all over the map. Jerry's capable of signing Pickens right away. That is one of the options. But this is certainly going to be a wild ride and roller coaster ride on the way to the conclusion of this situation. And your guess is nearly as good as mine. I would say this ultimately. I believe that George Pickens will be tagged 100%. I believe that George Pickens will command massive top 5 wide receiver value in his new contract that he seeks. I believe that George Pickens will 100% drag this thing out as long as he needs to. He will drag this thing out, not signing number 8, 9, 10 wide receiver value. He's not signing at that. So really the only variable here that controls this situation is does Jerry fold, and does he value Pickens as a top 5 wide receiver? How long does it take him to get to that point? Landman, if you want to dial in, you can dial in real quick. I'm not going to open phone lines, but I'll open the phone line for you real quick. Just briefly. The only question here for me is, how long does it take Jerry, or does he not ever accept that he has to pay Pickens top 5 wide receiver money to keep him? If he doesn't ever come to that conclusion, it will be a tag and trade, and another team will partake and pay Pickens. And there's no team, 0% chance a team trades for Pickens at second round value and doesn't immediately in unison in parallel, announce his new deal at the exact same time that the trade goes down. That is 99.999% of the time how it goes down. Only Jerry did it differently because Pickens requested it. Pickens didn't want a new deal when that happened last year. It will not happen at the cost of a second round. No team's trading a second round pick for George Pickens to literally rent him for a year. That announcement on the new deal will be announced in parallel with the trade. And the team and Pickens, the deal won't get done unless the numbers are agreed upon. Like, that is another part that is almost guaranteed. So if Pickens is to get traded, he's going to get from New England or Buffalo or wherever he goes, top 5 wide receiver money. The other thing you got to understand too is that you are going to get paid more by a team that trades for you than you are a team that is trying to retain your services. Dallas is going to pay less than New England's going to pay. Dallas is going to pay less than whatever team is potentially going to, make this move and trade for him. The team trading is willing to overpay to get it done. They're also put in a box that if this trade's trying to get done, they're trying to finagle, between several $1 million. They're not going to. They're going to fold to get it all wrapped up. Because you got to understand, if let's say the New England Patriots are trying to trade for Pickens, other teams are also potentially trying. It's a race. It's an auction. It's like buying a house and putting a bid in. Are you really going to sit there and try and finagle something when you know other bids are coming in? Or are you just throwing down what you need to throw down and get it done? The team retaining Pickens, Dallas, is going to pay Pickens less than any team actually going to trade for George Pickens. That is also going to be a part of this equation. If Pickens says, Dallas is offering me wide receiver 7 value, and I'm going to put up a stink so that there's an open door for, okay, well, let's see what teams would offer you then. And let's see what teams would offer us, the Dallas Cowboys. That is in George Pickens' control by creating a beef. I'm on a hard stop here. So, Landman, you got 30 seconds here. Go. You're live. I don't know if the phone lines. Hold on, Landman. I don't know if the phone lines. Let me switch it over real quickly. Hold on. See if I can get this alternate speaker going here. But I am at a hard stop, so you're going to have to. You got 30 seconds. Landman, go. You're live. 30 seconds.
Okay, let's say they work out a trade for Crosby and Pickens with, the draft, blah, blah, blah. Who cares, right?
Right.
My question is, this is where I need yours or Travis's expertise. If Crosby leaves, does it matter how he departs on the dead money hit for the trade?
Well, I mean, teams oftentimes will take on some of the hit in a trade, so the receiving team will actually go, pull it off or go through with it. It's hard to say how this would go. The fact that Jerry's penny pinching, and going to, it makes it hard to know what they're going to do. But if there is a trade between the Raiders and the Cowboys, Crosby will most certainly be involved. And the other thing you got to also consider is that is a part of a deal that would make Jerry intrigued. Jerry would be intrigued to get rid of Pickens if you're giving him another variable that everybody would be like, well, that's different, I mean, it's not just that he let Pickens go. He got Crosby, so this is explainable. I got to go on a hard stop, so Landman calling at 8 p.m. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man.
Jordan, the super chat. Jordan, appreciate you. Jordan to the Moon says, hey, thank you for responding to my comment. Thank you. Mind explaining more to me why what I said would bot, I think you mean not, be a good idea. Jordan, I don't know what comment you're talking about. I respond to so many comments, so this doesn't refresh my memory. Can you do me a favor, Jordan, and put that comment in this video once the video ends, not in the live chat, but in the comment section, and I'll answer in detail your question. Appreciate you. So we'll be back at 8 p.m. or sooner on this topic and more, but George Pickens could be traded. But again, just like I was telling Landman right there, The idea that there's another player involved like Max Crosby makes this a lot more feasible for Jerry to say, I didn't just let go of George Pickens, because Jerry's going to be worried about that. I didn't just let go of George Pickens. I got Max Crosby. And so it's going to be hard to judge that situation. I'll see you all at 8 p.m. Appreciate you. Please subscribe if you're new and get on over to the Rumble channel. The Rumble link's in the live chat. All the sponsors below, check them out, visit them. Appreciate you. Thank you for that super chat, Jordan. Please leave your comment in the comments of this video and I'll answer it in detail. Appreciate you.